Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, as always, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Neil Widener.
Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense.
This video is from Seattle, Washington, here on the waterfront. And this guy right here, if you go read the news stories I've linked in the description, he has quite a history, including driving his car into a voter registration push effort like tent that he, I think, was convicted of, as well as a disorderly conduct charge he pled guilty to before this. So he's got known problems. And what is happening here is somebody has started recording because there's a guy right behind the kids that are kind of in the front here. There's a guy in a wheelchair who has like an American flag and some veteran patches on his chair and on his backpack. And this guy says that he's stealing valor, that he's not really a veteran. And so he demands to see his ID. It's kind of hard to hear, but you're going to hear him say that. Give me your ID. I want to see your ID. We have a couple, 3 different angles on this. We have audio to go with it. Let's listen in.
All right, show me your ID. Show me your ID. Sorry, guys. This guy's my friend over here. My friend over here. This guy's you're being a clown. Where's your ID, sir? What you got on Facebook? Yeah, maybe pass that. Fake ass that. Oh, that's a threat. Somebody call 911. Somebody call 911. I better not be able to walk. All right, everybody. Show me your ID. Pull a fucking gun on me. Show me your ID. Pull a fucking gun on me. Pull a fucking gun on me. Put it away, sir. All right, everybody, I apologize. Pull a gun on me. I don't care if you pull the gun on me. We're not friends. Right!
As you can see here, our wheelchair-bound man actually did have a gun in his hand. Turns out it was a BB gun, and he did survive this. He was shot once. He did survive. They did arrest the other guy. He has been charged with first-degree assault, which in Washington is a very serious crime. From what I am able to gather, can actually lead to up to life in prison if there are aggravating circumstances on this. He is in a heap of trouble. Again, this guy is, from everything that I can see, again, they haven't named him from what I can see, but the news stories are claiming he is an actual veteran and is earnestly disabled, and he is going to make a recovery. There is an interview with him, or at least a little bit of a statement from him in the news stories I've linked in the description.
Hey, if you want to train and make your skill set better in a live fire environment, Neil Widener is the guy who runs our Active Self-Protection live training program.
Yeah, it's a good time. We travel around a few different places in the country. This year, we're going to 5 locations. If you want to see where that location is, hit the link, go to the Train With Us tab, and get in on the ASP Skills Summit is what we're calling it this time. It's a good time, a lot of fun time. You're going to get to put a lot of ammo down range, and hopefully learn something along the way.
Now, it is not illegal to be a jerk, but you know, Neil, it just sure feels like to me all of this is this guy manufacturing a problem so that he can go get a gun, and there's just nothing good, sane, sober, moral, or prudent about any of this.
Literally nothing. I mean, even if this guy is stealing some valor or something like that, what does it affect this man? And I get it. I don't like it when I hear about people that have done that. And, I didn't serve, and it still frustrates me. But to take it into your own hands in such a way that you just escalate and escalate and escalate this is where it's going to end up. And I don't know what the guy expected when he approached, why he thought that man in the wheelchair owed him any kind of explanation at all. He just made really poor decisions.
There's so many bad decisions here. And I want to note this because now our guy in the cap has taken his patch with force. He forcibly pulled that patch off of his backpack. So this isn't even a larceny, in my opinion. It's a robbery. So he is now in the commission of a robbery. Even if it's a larceny, he's in the commission of a crime. And if you are the instigator of a conflict and then you commit a crime in the midst of that conflict, that is going to completely negate your ability to make any kind of self-defense claim. So, Neil, I know some people are going to say, well, wait a minute. He saw that the other guy was drawing what he perceived to be a gun, so he responded to that. That's not how this works because he's in the commission of a crime. He is not able to claim self-defense, so he's the one at fault here. It's
100% that. I mean, he instigated everything. He physically stole something from somebody. Whether he thought that guy earned it or not, he didn't earn it. That was somebody else's property. And, we see that from time to time in, when people kind of lose their cool with something, they'll rip something out of somebody's hand or they'll steal a sign or, in this case, a patch of some sort. That makes you the bad guy. And it's really easy to get up on your high horse when you think somebody else is in the wrong, but it's even more easy to step, to fall right off the horse when you cross the line, and that's what this guy did.
He really did. And in the famous words of retired Lieutenant Tim Cotton from the Bangor, Maine Police Department, be kind to one another, keep your hands to yourself, and leave other people's things alone. If you do that, your chances of having problems are fairly small. However, this guy is just not doing that. And because he's not doing that, he is going to end up in just a heap of trouble here. So I know sometimes people say, well, wait a minute, John, aren't you supposed to be pro Second Amendment? Aren't you supposed to be on the side of gun owners? Friends, here's where we are. I am all for good, sane, sober, moral, prudent people. And even if you can't be good, sane, sober, moral, and prudent, I'm all for lawful people not breaking the law and for all people being able to defend themselves against criminal violence and protect their families. But stuff like this, I'm not for. I'm not for people irresponsibly using firearms in such a manner that they endanger others. So this, to me, when this gets played to a jury, there's nothing good about this. And Neil, we don't support it.
No, absolutely not. And I see it in the comments all the time that, XYZ person has been waiting their whole life to shoot somebody. And it was just looking for an excuse. And most of the time when I see that, nobody actually shot anybody in the video. This guy kind of leads me to believe that there are some folks out there that have been waiting their whole life to shoot somebody. And I think this might be one of them. He instigated the problem and he escalated it all the way through to the point where he got to pull the trigger that I feel like maybe he wanted to do anyway. And if you wanted to, give this guy any kind of benefit of the doubt and give him any, any positives, I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't want, this guy made horrible mistakes and I don't even want to go there.
Yeah, he made horrible mistakes all the way around. Nothing here. Now, let's talk about this older gentleman who shows up and tries to take the property back. He actually does get the patch back from the guy. And, Neil, our general rule at Active Self-Protection, our general advice is to not get involved in third-party encounters. But, man, I know you're like me in this. You see somebody who is, unable to protect themselves. And even as a non-really high responder, at some level, there's some things that you're just going to have to get involved in, that you're just kind of, this is a line in the sand I got to not cross. But I bet you if this guy could go back and do it over again, knowing who he's looking at and who he's acting against, he probably would change his mind.
Yeah, I don't think he would make the same decision if he was armed with the information he has today. But in that moment, just like you say, I would probably do the same thing of step up and at least say something, just because there's somebody that, is far less likely to be able to defend themselves, and somebody that is disabled should 100% be able to defend themselves. But if they can't, I think that's up to the rest of us as good, sane, sober, moral, prudent people to help with. And in this case, I admire the older guy, the older gentleman, for stepping up and stepping into that thing. However, by the end of the video, I'm like, oh man, he's lucky. I thought he was going to be the one that got shot, and I'm glad he got out of there okay.
Yeah, and I just want everybody to recognize the risks when you step into a third-party encounter, because this guy could easily have been the one that caught a bullet here, because he's dealing with an unhinged man who is looking for a reason to use force, certainly is what that looks like. Now, I mean, it just gets uglier from here. Our victim here in the wheelchair, he is mad about this, and he has every right to be mad about it and every right to stop somebody from stealing his property. And he gets out here this big, giant Crocodile Dundee Bowie knife, which is really not a good choice. Number one, it's not a less lethal tool. Number two, it has very limited range, and he has very limited mobility. And so it's not going to be a useful tool. And I really feel like had he here seen, okay, wait a minute, this guy is stealing my property and I need to stop that, and pulled something like a big OC spray that had some range to it and hosed this guy down, I think that would have been a better choice here.
Yeah, I just, we talked about this when we did the first watch, that, that big knife, while it's an intimidation tool, in reality, when it comes time to actually use the tool, it's very hard to get that into a fight when your mobility is such that you're stuck in that chair. And you saw him, wheeling across, closing the distance, and really all the guy has to do is sidestep or step back or whatever. So, my feedback to the gentleman in the chair would be to, let's get a better tool. You have 100% the right to defend yourself, and man, I'll help you do it. And if you watch this and reach out, I'll get you some Palm OC spray to boot. But that Bowie knife, while it's going to be intimidating to some folks, when you run into somebody with a gun or something along those lines, technically he introduced the lethal force first. And so, now I think the other guy is the one that started all of this, and he's just defending himself. But that's what gave our Scully Cap guy the idea to, I'm going to pull my gun out now. And so I feel like the guy's been waiting for it, but that's how he justified it was we pulled a knife to start with. So we got to find the right tool for the right moment. And depending on your situation, that tool has to be something that you can use and implement.
Yeah, and I do think there's an argument that can be made that our disabled man here, any threat to his person because he's medically fragile could be seen as a deadly threat to him, as a threat to put him in the hospital because he can't, take a punch because he's in a wheelchair and he knows he's medically fragile, if that's the case, and he knows those things. So he, as a disabled person with significant documented disabilities, you might get some more leeway on these things. But I do think still it's really wise to have something, in the words of the legendary lawman Chuck Haggard, between a harsh word and a gun. And yes, we are a big fan of OC spray on the channel because for the private citizen, it really works and is easy to carry and doesn't have the complications and the problems involved in a conductive electrical weapon like a taser. And it's much easier for your average private citizen to use, to train with, to understand when they're good to use. So have a less lethal on you, friends. Even if you carry, especially if you carry a firearm, have that. Now, also as well, he draws a BB gun here, Neil, and we'll talk about that BB gun more at some other places, but that's what causes our guy to draw. And I want to talk just a moment here about the BB gun, because that is a terrible idea, in my opinion. I don't want to blame our guy in a wheelchair, but he's bluffing is what he's doing. He's saying, I'm going to threaten you, and I want you to believe that I can shoot you and do deadly harm to you, but he can't. So I just think any kind of BB gun like this is a terrible, wrong, no idea, because what ends up happening is exactly what we worry about. You meet somebody who has a real gun and you get shot.
Yep. We see it not irregularly. It happens from time to time where somebody in the commission of a robbery or something will use a BB gun, and then there's this big uproar when the law enforcement guys show up and actually shoot the person that had what looked like a gun in their hand. That, they aren't able to actually do any damage with that. So using something like that as a self-defense tool, again, it's an intimidation thing, just like the knife. And in his case, of the two tools he has, the one that's actually deadly is the knife, and that's the one that he doesn't have the mobility to use. So if you're going to carry something that looks like a gun, it just as well be a gun. So that you can defend yourself. And then you need to find something that's less lethal. And in this case, that's where I think the OC, a big OC canister, you probably have some space there to put that right there on your chair and kind of keep it, somewhat concealed. That will reach out and touch somebody from a little ways, and then a real firearm if you really need to defend yourself. And so, again, I'm not passing any judgment on the guy in the wheelchair. He was wronged in this. He was the victim in all of this. But if we can honor the sacrifice of him having to get shot in this and learn some lessons, I think that's the prudent thing to do.
Now, I want to separate this for just a moment from the morality of this. I think the guy in the hat is wrong. He's going to prison for a long time. I'm not justifying anything he did. I want to talk about his draw here, okay? He's carrying a gun in a backpack. We always say backpack carry, purse carry is the worst carry. It's better than leaving the gun at home, and I'm not telling you not to carry if that's the only way you can carry. But let's think about how long this takes him to draw the gun. Because from when the time right here when he starts drawing the gun, takes a big sidestep, gets his hand in his pocket, gets the gun out, gets it on target. I think he had a manual safety there, then gets a shot off. I timed it 8.6 seconds. 8.6 seconds from the start of his draw, not from the stimulus, mind you, from the start of his draw till when his shot breaks. And that's glacial. Neil, you could time that with a sundial. And when we say this 2.0 standard is for a reason in a counter ambush, this is why we say this is very typical with bags and why we don't recommend them.
Yeah, there's always somebody that shows up in the comments that tells me they have a 1 second draw to first shot from their bag. But I have yet for somebody to post a video and show me. The only ones I've ever seen is when it's staged and they have their hand on the gun or their hand on the zipper or whatever. But this is typically what we see from somebody reaching into a bag to get a gun. It's very slow. You've got to get in there. You've got to find something that's somewhat loose, even if it's Velcroed in there. You've got to find the grip. Get the gun out, take the safety off, and do all of the stuff that you have to do. And then he still only shoots one-handed to boot. He's lucky he didn't shoot multiple people or somebody else, that he actually got the hit on what his target was. Again, I'm not giving him any credit whatsoever. Everything that he's doing is wrong. And so why would you expect him to actually do the shooting part right as well? But super slow, super ineffective. If our guy in the wheelchair had a real firearm, he was way ahead in this fight and would have been able to defend himself had he had a real gun.
Yeah, and remember, he's not going to be able to claim self-defense here. I would even doubt that a judge will allow him to claim self-defense at any trial because he was in the commission of a crime. He had committed either at least burglary, but more likely robbery, because he took with force. And so a judge is almost certainly going to say, you don't get to claim self-defense because you were in the commission of a crime when all this happened. So yeah, I mean, the technique is bad, right? Take a firearms training class, please, everybody, or at least come over to Active Self-Protection Extra, learn how to put two hands on the gun and not endanger other people. And his shot did hit its target. Great. Not great in this case. I wish it would have missed and gone off and not hurt anybody, but it did. Now, I want to also note here, you look at what he's doing here. Now he has to clear a malfunction in his gun. So once again, not talking about the rightness of his actions because there are none. But so many people carry crappy guns that they have not vetted and verified because it's not like he didn't have all day to get the right grip on this gun. And yet it fouls up on him. And Neil, how many people do we know who carry firearms that have not been thoroughly vetted, are not properly lubed, and are basically jam-o-matics?
Just tons. There's a lot of people who do. I mean, it goes from their sock drawer to their purse, or their sock drawer to their backpack, or wherever the case may be. And they just don't test their equipment to ensure that it's going to work on the day that they need it to work. And again, I think there's another lesson that we can pull out of this, John, is that, if our guy in the chair had a real gun, he's not out of it after one shot. And, a lot of bad guys carry subpar equipment because that's what they can get. And so just the fact that they've, got one hit off does not mean you have lost this fight yet. So if you're carrying a gun and you take a hit, you have to stay mentally present in the moment and stay in that fight, because you're worth defending. And in most cases, you're going to have to defend yourself. So stay in the fight and do it.
I also want to note, look at all the bystanders, right? And some of them are moving at a pretty decent clip, but an awful lot of them are pretty nonchalant about getting out of the area. They hear a shot fired, have seen a conflict rising, and they're just kind of like, well, let's go inside this Starbucks here and kind of sort of get out of the way a little bit. Friends, if you hear shots fired and you know where your loved ones are, now maybe not if you don't know where your loved ones are, you got to gather them up. But if your family ain't in the midst of the conflict, you want to get out of that area of operations as fast as you possibly can. And seeing this kind of lollygagging, Neil, makes me want to bang my head on the desk.
Yeah, I watched this a few times, and what I keep seeing is just looking at these people that are walking away and looking back over their shoulder, and they're just in, the mode of, I want to see what's going on, and I'm not really worried about my own safety. When, we see bad things happen when you don't get out of the danger zone. So, if you're not directly involved and somebody or a loved one isn't directly involved, then just go. The problem here is if we had a self-defender in the crowd that drew a gun and decided to try to defend somebody, which one is he going to defend? Who, you have to make another decision without all of the information. So in this particular case, unless you're the guy with the camera that's watching the whole thing and has seen it all, most of these people walking by aren't going to be able to get involved and make the right decision. So just get out of there and protect yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely true. Now, I also want to note here, okay, so if this guy's going to make a claim of self-defense and say, I was in fear for my life, let's think about what he does afterwards. Let's think about how he responds after. So he had 8.6 seconds. I would certainly ask, what else could you have done in 8.6 seconds that would have been a better solution than spending all that time drawing your gun rather than just get out of the way? But instead, he curses at him, draw an effing gun on me, and then stands there. And we note our victim here, our wheelchair-bound guy, still has that gun in his hand. He's not dead. And I honestly think if our guy had jumped over and gotten behind cover or even had shot more than once because, oh, wait a minute, the guy still had a gun in his hand, I would say that would be more believable. But based on his actions certainly don't look to me like somebody who was in actual fear of their life, that somebody who really was afraid they were about to die would get themselves away from that danger as fast as they could. I want to note here one little small detail. Remember what precluded all this is our beheaded guy, our shooter, demanded to see the ID of our wheelchair-bound man. Look at his left hand. He has his ID in his hand. He has his actual ID in his hand that he was actually going to show the guy. And I don't think he was obligated to do that, but the prosecutor shows this to a jury. What jury is there? Now, this is in Seattle, Washington, okay? This isn't in like some deep red Bible Belt, right-wing conservative culture. This is in Seattle, Washington. If the prosecutor's just going to show this to the jury, and this guy is going to take up residence in a state-funded gated community for decades. And Neil, I'm sure glad this is still our mission to help people avoid these problems.
It really is, and I feel blessed that I get to be able to do what I do. But if you look at the beginning of this, our Scully Cap guy came in with the same attitude that he went out with. He was punitive from the start. He was judgmental. He was demanding for, the ID and calling this guy different kind of names and that kind of thing, demanding for all of this stuff. And at the end, after he shot, and if he tries to claim self-defense and that he was in fear for his life, he was still standing there in a punitive stage, telling this guy, you effing pulled a gun on me, you effing did this, hey, everybody, it's okay now because I took care of the problem. No, you're the problem. You started all of this. And man, there's just absolutely no way to walk around the world. So for all of those of you that are watching, these are horrible decisions. Let's learn from this. Let's pray for this guy in the chair to make a full recovery and to at least live the life to the best of his abilities here. But for all the rest of us, let's make better decisions so that we can cover our ass.